Hopefully I didn't bore you guys too much with the fourth down punting philosophy. Nobody wants to know how you give the ball to the other team. That's not fun. That's not things that everybody wants to learn about. But real quick, we get into our offensive philosophy. We base a lot out of 10 personnel. The past 3 years we have, and we've been really successful with it. And, there's a lot of reasons why I really like 10 personnel. Number one reason why is because it best fits our kids. We've had some really good quarterbacks come through, so obviously we've been fortunate with that. But we've also had a lot of skill kids. The tight ends, fullbacks, all the type kids that we have, we don't have a lot of them. We have some, but we just don't have a lot of them. And if they are tight ends, fullbacks type kids, they probably need to be playing the D-line. And whenever you looked around at 6A in the state of Arkansas, all the really good football teams have really, really good defensive lines along with really good quarterback play. So that's some stuff that we definitely looked at whenever we first got here. We've got to get better with our defensive line, and that was definitely the focus. And if that means that a defensive end is way more valuable than a tight end or fullback, so be it. We've got enough skill guys that we can make that fit, and it's fit our kids the best. Other thing is we want to create running lanes in the box and on the perimeter. We do it a lot of different ways. We don't have just an extremely complex run game. We have two that are backside reads for the quarterback runs where we can get an extra number in the box. And then we've also got two kind of auxiliary runs that we use a lot for RPOs where we base a lot of people. So we don't do just a ton as far as the run game. We will get on the perimeter quite a bit with screens, different things like that. But just trying to create running lanes by spreading the field. Less people have to execute in the running game. Before we went to 10 personnel, or went back to kind of my bread and butter, what I know best, we were in 21 personnel. There's just a lot of guys in there that have to execute. And whenever you get into 10, there's a lot more space, not as many bodies, not as many people that have to execute. And it just makes it a little bit easier. And then also, when you have the option to throw the ball out on the edge and get the ball in space and make the defensive line run, that definitely helps out a little bit as well. Other thing, in 10 personnel, to me, it's a lot easier to see what the defense is going to do. They can't disguise as many blitzes. Now, of course, they can move around, especially if you don't have a run game that you can kind of lean on every now and then whenever it's a really light box. Or you have a quarterback that can make guys miss and make people pay, if they go zero and don't quite hit home. So there's some different things that teams can do if you don't have a few things. So a quarterback that can make plays with his feet is big, and being able to run the ball consistently for 4 or 5 yards is really big as well. Other thing about 10 personnel is it's kind of what I know best. My background is more spread stuff. I played for Coach Hugh Freeze at Lambeth for a year. I learned from him, and then also went to Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia for 2 years as a graduate assistant. Learned a ton from all those coaches, and just had a really good experience. And also, just playing in 10 personnel sets makes me really comfortable with it. And it's just kind of what I know best. I know a lot more answers for 10 personnel than I knew when we were running 21 personnel, 20 personnel. But we'll keep looking at it just a little bit. Other things, we got to spread the field. We want to utilize the entire field. So the way that we do that is we talk a lot about covered and uncovered receivers. Of course, we're going to have 4 out there at the most part, sometimes 5 whenever you can get into empty sets, especially when you're wanting to run the quarterback a little bit. But we talk a lot about covered versus uncovered. So our definition of a covered wide receiver, there's got to be a defender within 5 yards of the wide receiver, and he's got to be looking at him. So if you think about a lot of guys that are apex, they're out half in, half out of the box, but they have their eyes in the backfield, we would say that he's uncovered. So what we would do is we try to read that guy that's kind of half in, half out, and see if is he a box player or is he a space player. If he's a space player, we'd RPO and we'd hand the ball off. If he ended up being a box player, then we'd have something hopefully out there, whether it was a screen, some kind of quick game, maybe a glance or a bang eight that comes in behind him. But that's how we define covered and uncovered. 5 yards looking at the receiver. If they're not looking at him, guess what? There's space somewhere because he's not going to be able to wall or anything. If you're getting a good run read from the tackle and in the backfield getting a mesh and all that stuff, he's not going to be able to reroute that wide receiver. So you can have a free release into some windows. So he's uncovered. And, of course, if you have an apex defender trying to play, trips, maybe he's apex between number 2, number 3. there's space there. You don't know exactly where it's going to be, so you got to stretch that defender. But you know there's space there because there's 2-on-1. They have to roll a safety. They have to get somebody out of the box. And if they roll a safety, that's even better. If they get somebody out of the box, then hopefully we can hand the ball off and get a positive gain. But that's kind of how we want to stretch the field, and we always want to take advantage of it. If we see somebody uncovered, we want to take advantage of it. We don't want to wait to the next play and hope that he's still uncovered. Every single time we see a player that is uncovered, we've got to be able to take advantage of it, whether it's a check from the quarterback, check from the sideline, whatever it is. Take advantage of uncovered players. Don't wait for the next play because he might not be uncovered next play. Take advantage of it right now, every single time. Other thing we want to do with our offense, we want to create tempo and make the defense run sideline to sideline. This year, when we won a state championship, is probably the least physically imposing offensive line that we've had in 2 or 3 years. Our offensive line that we had 3 years ago was massive, 6'6", 6'7" tackles. Our guards were, 6'3", 6'4". Our center was pretty good size. I think our center was actually our starting left tackle this year. He's probably our biggest lineman this year. He was our smallest guy that year. So if that says anything, I think our scheme has gotten a lot better within the run game. It's gotten a lot better getting the ball on the edge. And I think that's kind of helped us out, or not kind of, I know it's helped us out a ton as far as being able to win the big games whenever you get into the playoffs. Ways that you want to create tempo. We do it a lot with one-word calls. Maybe it's a concept that you kind of like, or you really like to screen a certain way, or whatever it is. A one-word call so that you don't have to practice it a lot, practice it both ways or anything. Just, hey, this one word is a formation, maybe a motion, whatever it is, and you don't have to just major in it. I think this is how we create a lot of the complexity that we do without making it extremely tough for our guys to get. They just understand, hey, whenever we hear this one word, this is what it is. This formation, this motion, whatever it is, and we run it. So do that. You can go quickly. Other things, we do a lot of screen checks. If we are uncovered or we can get lined up and throw the ball out there, we're going to get lined up and throw the ball. We want to try to make the defense get lined up. Again, keeping game pressure, making those guys run, hopefully getting the defensive linemen tired so that later in the game they can't pass rush quite what they did, especially early in the game. Real quick, this is one of our screen checks. One word call. We get lined up. If we like the screen, we're gonna snap the ball. We're gonna throw it out there. So right here you can see there's nobody lined up. There's even nobody here with the D-line lined up. Here's the apex defender trying to get out there. We snap the ball. We throw it out there, making those guys play faster than they want to. Free yards right there. So the most interesting part about this is we snapped in. There's 35 seconds left on the 40-second play clock, and you can see there's nobody lined up. Will we run this a lot? No, but it's always kind of in our arsenal if people are getting lined up slowly, are not playing fast enough. We want to take advantage of it, make them tired, and do something that they're not used to doing, and play fast. So that's kind of one thing that we've done here this past year that was really good for us is that screen check.